Welcome to our podcast. My name is Brian McGee, and I'm here with Owner Boss and Matt Geringer.
During this podcast, we will be talking about the drug test here at Creighton Prep.
Our podcast will consist of many sources, including interviews with students and faculty members.
The drug tests here at Creighton Prep have been going on for 2 years now, and people are consistently tested every single week.
Creighton Prep's former president, Mr. Jambaluka, first instituted the hair test for drug and alcohol because it's the most effective way to test for these substances over a long period of time.
As students here at Creighton Prep, we're required to participate in these random drug tests.
Each week, approximately 25 students get tested at prep.
Each student is randomly selected through a computer program generator in Radberg's office.
Our first guest is going to be David Lindsay. He's the senior at Creighton Prep.
David has been tested twice in his time at Prep. We'll be asking him questions about his opinion on the drug test here at Creighton Prep. We'll be asking him questions about his opinion on the drug test here at Creighton Prep.
What was your initial reaction when you first heard that the drug test is being implemented here?
When Mr. Nats first announced that there were going to be drug tests, I wasn't that surprised because it had been talked about, but I didn't agree with the implementation because I think prep tries to play too big of a role in our lives outside of school.
So you thought it was unnecessary for them to implement these drug tests because why?
I just think prep is supposed to prepare us not just academically but also socially for college, and I think these drug tests kind of prevented us from doing that in a sense. I also think we had a good system of self-reporting for any infractions we had outside of school.
There's been talk that these drug tests have been preventing kids from coming to prep because they don't want to participate in these drug tests. Have you heard anything about that, or what's your opinion on that?
I think the drug tests are affecting enrollment at prep. I've heard parents say that they decide to not send their kids to prep due to the drug testing because they think it's unfair. And I have also in situations where the kid gets to decide where he goes, I'm sure that has a big effect on his decision.
There's been a lot of talk going around the school that these drug tests are not accurate at all. Kids are saying that they will go out and be drinking almost every weekend. Yet, they pass their tests with only small amounts of alcohol showing up, which is below the binge drinking level.
I've heard the same thing too, Owner. There's been many cases where there's been kids that have barely even touched alcohol or consumed alcohol, and they'll fail their drug test pretty badly. But then there's kids I know that'll be drinking every weekend, and they'll be under that binge drinking limit.
Yeah, a very good buddy of mine actually failed horribly, and I know for a fact he's never gotten near alcohol once in his life.
I've done some research online, and reading some articles, I found that doctors will fail these tests due to just the amount of hand sanitizer they use before seeing a patient. There's really no way for these tests to tell if it's alcohol from actually consuming it or just alcohol from everyday substances such as hand sanitizer or mouthwash.
Many websites, especially DNAlegal.com, recommend using a blood test along with a hair test sample to see if the hair test sample is accurate. We sat down with another prep student just to get more insight on these drug tests. We interviewed senior swimmer Brandon Abood the other day during the first block and just asked him a few quick questions.
Honestly, I knew there's going to be a lot of different reactions. I know there's going to be a lot of people upset. A lot of people upset that everyone was, freaking out. And, personally, I don't think it's a good move. I don't think it's saved a lot of, I don't think it's helped a lot. If anything, it stops people because they're scared, which could be good. Scared of failing their test. But for the most part, it's not stopping people because they're scared, which could be good. Scared of failing their test. But for the most part, it's not stopping kids from, indulging in the old drinking.
Yeah, would you say this opinion of yours that
it's not a very effective test. It's not a good thing for us. Would you say this is shared by the prep community on a whole, or is it just a select few, such as yourself?
I think a lot of people agree with me. I think it's a whole school-wide thought that it just isn't effective.
So you were talking about how some students just continue to drink, continue to indulge in whatever. Would you say this is because, why do they do it? Are they just not scared, or does the test does not work? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, from what I've heard, the test isn't very effective. There's a lot of people I know who, honestly should fail, and they pass, with flying colors. So, it's just a little bit off. And then there's kids that will fail who, don't even indulge in any of that.
Yeah.
And so I think the test is just a little bit, some of it's just not right or effective enough.
Yeah, there's a specific case I wanted to ask you about, Chase Alberts, who failed. He got a 10 something or an 8 something.
Yeah. Like I think that's just a fail in the system. Mm-hmm. I think it's just, because they test hair, and I don't know the whole science behind it, but from what I hear, it's just, something's just not right.
Back to the Chase Alberts incident that I referenced in the previous interview. Chase Alberts tested and failed for almost double the ETG that would be found in a binge drinker's hair sample. Shortly after failing this test that was administered through PrEP, he went to another company and got the very same hair sample taken and passed with flying colors.
Matt, I did hear about this story, but these tests are actually catching a lot of people in their acts of drug use or alcohol use. The people that still continue to use drugs or alcohol, a lot of them have kind of slowed down in the amount of times they use it, a month or week. But these tests are still catching a lot of people, even though they're slowing down on their use.
These tests have definitely benefited the safety of the students here at PrEP. I know a lot of kids who have stopped using drugs or alcohol because of these tests, and that is, of course, a good thing.
We found time to talk to Mr. Wurzberger, who is the head of the Health and Wellness program here at Creighton Prep. Mr. Wurzberger deals with the kids who have failed their drug and alcohol tests.
We sat down and asked about the alcohol and drug tests here at Prep. The question was why they started it.
We've always been very concerned about students' health, welfare, and safety. We find that there's been enormous pressure in our society, that it seems as though that alcohol use and drug use has been normalized by society in film, TV, other outlets, other media. And we also know that it's a very serious threat to the health of our students. And for that reason, we thought we needed to do something more, that is always looking for the modus or the greater, in being able to assist our students in preventing them from even experimenting with alcohol or other drugs.
After hearing the students' opinion on whether or not they're effective, we decided to ask Mr. Wurzberger what his opinion was.
We think they've been very effective. When we look at the number of positive test results that we've received, it is much, much lower than what was reported in research, statistics, and surveys that have been done before we instituted this program.
It's really interesting to hear the students' and teachers' differences in opinion on the effectiveness of these drug tests. We then went on to ask him about the future plans for the drug test at PrEP.
Well, we evaluate every year. Whether or not we'll make changes, for sure, probably maybe some minor changes, but we definitely will continue. And we appreciate that we've also received considerable support from our administration and from some of the PrEP donors, too, who have agreed to continue to even finance this program.
We found the time to do one last interview with speech team participant Aaron Salzman. I think that he has a very good opinion on these drug tests here, and he has some very good insight that we want you all to hear. So what was your initial opinion when first hearing about the institution of these drug tests here at Prep?
My first opinion was that it was good. It didn't really affect me too much. I thought that those who were doing it would get punished, and they should be staying away from it anyways. But I guess now that I've kind of grown older and have kind of seen some of the different aspects that might push someone to drugs and alcohol, it's become more nuanced, and I've kind of found that people might not do it just because they don't care about themselves or care about school. They might do it because of peer pressure, and there are a few shades of that. So my opinion in favor of these drug tests has changed from that to kind of a more... I think one of the things that is really positive about the drug test is that it can give someone an out if they're in one of those situations where they can just say, well, Prep does this drug test, so I can't do that. And it's a very fair and very reasonable way out of peer pressure.
We then went on to ask him the question that we have asked every single other interviewee, whether or not these drug tests are effective and how they have affected Prep.
Well, I think one of the issues that has kind of damaged its reputation is that a lot of people who are, kind of widely known to do this, they kind of slip through the cracks, and then also some people get false positives. So I think something's going to have to change in order for these drug tests to become more effective, but I think the overall idea is a good one.
So you think it's helping our community here at Prep with these tests?
Yeah, and basically just because it's, it gives an out for peer pressure.
Very interesting to hear him say that these tests are a way for Prep kids to say no to drugs or alcohol, and it gives them a way out of the peer pressure.
After hearing all of these interviews, I think the general opinion is that these drug and alcohol tests are actually stopping people from using these substances. However, there needs to be something done to improve the accuracy of these tests.
With these drug tests only having been in effect for 2 years at Creighton Prep, it was clear there were going to be some problems and some bugs. If the administration plans to move forward with these tests, they're going to need to do some trial and error to find the formula that works best for protecting the health of their students.
This sums up our podcast here. We'd like to thank you all for listening, and we hope we gave you an insight on the drug test here at Creighton Prep.